All right, we almost had the right camera to start with. What's up, everybody? Josh here from Broken Anvil. I am the head studio painter, and we also have our other studio painter, Spencer, running the cameras today. We are down quite a few people in the office, and I am also not feeling too great either, so we are rocking and rolling to get this stream off the ground. So we're going to be painting up, really we can vote on either, but we have the Kobold Press Deep Magic Kickstarter minis available. And you can see these here. They're going to be going up for sale or order, pre-order. I don't know which verbiage to use, but they're going to be available for Kickstarter backers relatively soon, from what I understand, through a special little offer for them. And we're going to be producing them. So they're going to be made in COcast. You guys already know the deal with that for the most part. But what's cool about these, they also have spell effects. So these are our master prototypes that are being used to make our molds. You can see we have examples of the spell effects here. So on our Frost Mage, Ice Mage, right here we have the awesome snow pattern, or snowflake, giant snowflake shield situation. And then on our Fire Boy, we've got the flame. Let me see if I can get this correct. I forgot just how loud that keyboard is. It's so funny. Okay, here we go. So you can see that as well. So obviously I didn't attach these right now ahead of time, because then they would have been primed with opaque primer, and obviously you can paint them however you want. If you want to do the fire effect or spell effect, whatever that is, I think leaving them a little bit translucent is cool. The final material, this is the 3D printed prototype used for the mastering on the material. However, the material will be a little bit different than this. We do plan on doing on our Patreon, Broken Anvil Monthly, how to paint clear effects like this. They require a little bit more finesse that will take a little bit more time than what we're planning on doing today on stream. But that is what we're going to be doing. So if you are here hanging out, thanks so much. We can let people, I guess, sort of vote which they want to see. I'm going to be going sort of fast, I suppose, today painting, just so that this video doesn't take a very long time. But we're going to be painting up one of them. My vote is for the ice. I feel like because of where that shield barrier is, we can do a cooler lighting effect, but we can also do the fire guy as well. But I'm already putting in one vote for our cool effect. The paint we're going to be using today is going to be our upcoming Broken Anvil paints that we have been developing the past few months. Super high quality, high density, natural pigment line. We're really excited about. We've been sending them off to some people. I know. Well, I guess I can't really say yet. We haven't necessarily been saying who, but if you are familiar with people that we work with in the past, you can probably guess who's going to be getting test copies of these. But all of that will start going out into the wild. And then, of course, we also have restarted our new Patreon. So you can check that out, patreon.com/brokenanvil, where we send you handmade miniatures every single month straight to your door that has corresponding video content. As a, first month support special for this month, we're actually sending out 9 miniatures instead of 3, so it is definitely the time to jump in on that. We've already released a couple of videos. This Friday we're putting out a COcast video where we talk about the production process, how we make molds and how it all works, and how to work with those minis. We filmed with Nate, who's our production manager and head mold maker here, yesterday, so that video is really cool. And we just uploaded a full palette preview of all of the paints. So we are excited about that.
Ice is winning.
Ice is winning. Okay, cool. Well, then we'll go with that, and we can go ahead and get started. So I will start off relatively simply now that I have the artwork pulled up on my phone. So you're going to see me reference that relatively frequently. Just sort of basic information aside. And let me know if the keyboard is too loud, and we just won't use the keyboard anymore, because I know that it's probably coming through super loud on the mic. But if you have questions, you can ask Spencer in the chat. He can see no matter where you're watching. We are also live no matter where you are. We're on live on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube at the same time. But quick little questions out of the way that we always get. I am using Da Vinci Miniature Maestro Series 76 brushes, size 2, so nothing crazy there. The wet palette that we use is just a whatever, who cares sponge. The only thing that's a little bit different is we use parchment paper, so we're using burger sheets, but we have talked about that many times. So we'll bring up the palette cam so you guys can see as I'm working. You'll be able to check the consistency of the paint. And then the nice part about our ice wizard, sorceress, whatever the term is, if you know exactly what I should be calling her, go ahead and let me know in the chat. She is on the cover of Deep Magic Volume 1, which is really cool. But we have a lot of dark colors. So what's nice about our paint range, we did some built-in color theory. I'm the person that mixed all of these colors by hand to actually create the palette through all the pigments. We have a cool tone black and a warm tone black and a just straight up single pigment black as well. But that allows you to keep really, really high color temperature saturation as you're working on anything that you may be working on. So for a paint job like this, where we're dealing with a lot of cool colors, it works out really well. So I'm going to put that on the palette, and I'm also going to add our blue 4. So all of our paint names are really simple. It is usually whatever the primary color is, 0 through 4. Amazing. I know, we don't have like burrito brown or cookie cream, anything like that. We just straight up have pigments. So, all right, so I've grabbed that. Let me get my water a little bit closer to me. And we can start rocking and rolling. So you can see I did a zenithal prime application. All that means is I primed with black primer. Of course, except where I actually held the miniature while I was priming it, which was right there. So you can see there's no primer on the base. But, and then I just applied white primer through the airbrush in the direction that I wanted it all to go, or like the light source to go. And so since her magic effect is coming from the front of her, sorry, I'm trying to pull up the artwork again, that is what we are rocking and rolling with. Okay, so her hair is relatively dark. The sort of arm, I guess her gloves, and we'll go with her leggings. So I'm just gonna use the cool tone black that we have mixed 50-50 with water. What's cool about these paints is it allows me to work really, really quickly because it has a contrast style effect. These paints are absolutely loaded to the gills with the maximum amount of pigment that we could shove into them. And so that's really great for us because that means really thinned down on top of pure white paint or a zenithal application, you are going to get a really, really nice, smooth sort of contrast style effect when they dry. What's really great about it too is that they also don't tea stain at all because of the amount and the fine grind of the pigment that we use. So that's just sort of a little secret added benefit that makes things really, really nice. So I'm gonna end up using this color for as much as I can. We can shift it any direction we want afterwards. I'm not too concerned about that. Let me know too if you would rather have a wood background on this. We have a black matte underneath, but I can also move it to be, well, a little bit harder. But if you feel like it's hard to see her for whatever reason, let me know and I can change it up to make it a little bit better. But we can shift these colors after they dry with highlights. So I'm not too concerned. I'm gonna go ahead and apply this onto her gloves as well. If I want more of that sort of primer to show through, I can go back with my brush and just shove it around with some water. That's a nice way to sort of work with the paints as they are drying. You have a lot of drying time on these as well if they're wet, and I would say a lot, not more than 5 or 7 seconds probably, but enough to where if you're trying to adjust the placement of the pigment, you can push it around. And we've been having a lot of fun working with them in the office. Okay, and then I figured we would do her leggings with the same color. I'll go ahead and apply those there. Does anybody have any immediate questions for us, Spencer?
Someone was talking about if we're going to do OSL, and I know we were going to do kind of a light source. So.
We're probably not going to do OSL because this is going to be like an hour-long or maybe hour-and-a-half full paint job. Topics like that we definitely cover on our Patreon and things like that, where we do full in-depth tutorials, technique focuses, things like that. But I'm not going to be doing OSL mainly because 2 reasons. One, it would be a little bit too long of a video here for a full complete paint job. And 2, while it would be really cool, you could probably do it a little bit better on the Fire Mage. What's nice is you may be able to tell, now this is wet, so I'm trying not to like get paint on the actual spell effect. But the light actually does tint this paint job, so you can see her body turn blue as I place that there, see that? So 1, I am getting a literal physical change in the color on the miniature as I do that. But 2, I don't think this would be emitting light. Maybe it is, I'm not sure. The direction of my source lighting is technically object source, right? Like it's coming from the spell effect. And then the other part that sort of allows me to get that effect without trying too awfully hard As I was mentioning, right, we use color temperature in our palette in order to help keep saturation and overall like coherency with that. Part of that as well is our whites are also color temperatured. So we have a pure white, we have a warm white, and then we also have a cool. So I'll be using the cool a lot for the highlighting. And since our light source is coming from the right-hand side where she's casting that magic effect, it will naturally help sell that effect as well. If I wanted it to be way more intense, I would be doing more of a glaze from the get-go, but we're not going to really do that today. So it's a good question. We sort of are. We sort of aren't. It's somewhere in between, but it'll still look really cool. So, and then we'll go ahead and do the top part here of the, might be a cloak, might be a robe, maybe a little bit of both. You'll be able to see the folds here showing through. We're not using any mediums or anything like that, just straight up water. That's all you need. If you do paint with mediums and stuff, obviously, and you're using whatever paints you have at home, anything that can kind of get you a little bit faster through that zenithal will help, but we're just going to let that go through. And then I'm going to pull up her artwork one more time and see what else might be dark to base coat that. So let me pull this up 1 second. I would have it on screen, but I have my actual thing you're looking at on my screen as well, so that way I know what's going on. Okay, so looks like we've got just regular old blue for everything else, maybe darker blue for the center portion and lighter blue for the skirt. All right, sounds good. So we will do, let's do our blue 3 for the sort of chest piece and the piece of cloth going in between the legs there. The one nice thing about these miniatures, they are pretty much monochromatic, right? She's wearing all blues. He's wearing all reds. I know, it's crazy that the Frost Mage would wear blue, but it just means an easier, faster paint up for everybody else involved. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to mix this 50-50. I want to take advantage of the zenithal below. All right. We will do that here. The nice part, of course, wherever the black paint is showing a bit more than the white primer, it will be darker as it dries, so we're able to get a built-in shadow. I always like to move from the middle, which means I don't necessarily like to start my paint jobs with the darkest color moving up. I feel like you get the exact same end result and you have more control and way more speed if you actually start somewhere in the middle. So by doing a thinner coat on top of a zenithal, you're able to do just that, which is really nice. Okay, we got that, and then I'm gonna check her cowl really fast to see if that is the same color, and if it is, we will apply that really, really quick. And I actually think that part is, yeah, we'll do it the same, and then we'll tint it down a little bit. So I'm going brighter than the actual color I sort of want it to end up as, just so that I know I can apply another round of a darker tone to adjust it. I just want to get this as like our base tone.
Someone's asking about the ET, if when the paints come out?
So we have no idea. I know, don't you love that answer? It's my favorite answer, being able to say, we have no idea. So obviously, pretty soon, we have all of the colors rocked in. We know exactly what's going on with those. It is a base palette of 40 colors. We also have fluorescent colors. We have clear colors and metallics in the works. So that will be after that initial palette. The only thing that we're not sure of is if we want to just do straight up pre-orders or if we want to do crowdfunding of some sort, and that's really the only decision. So we are pretty much ready on all fronts for the actual release of the paints, but beyond that, we just got to figure out what we want to do. So I'm going to grab another blue here. Actually, let's grab, that was blue 3, so let's do blue 2. Blue 3 and blue 2 have completely different pigments, which is nice. None of our paints really have more than, oh, let me see if I have our tester bottles. So the bottles that you see here are also not our final bottles. These are a little bit smaller for all of our tester sets. And sometimes they clog on me, so I'm actually going to go a little bit brighter. We'll adjust. I'm going to mix it with the other blue that we have on the palette.
Thinking on the fly.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. All right. We will mix the two. There we go.
Someone was asking a little bit about pricing. I think that's still kind of ETA as well.
Yeah, pricing is in the air. It's definitely closer to higher end paints like Scale 75 or AK, something like that. Sub $4 for sure. We're not trying to do like GW pricing. The bottles are either going to be 17 mil or 20 mil dropper style, so they'll fit in all of people's typical standard dropper style tools they may have if you've got like a paint rack or something at home. But that's sort of it in terms of like stuff we know for sure in terms of pricing and things like that. Obviously, we will try and get the best value possible for people in whatever early orders we take, but we just don't know much beyond that immediately. So I'm actually going to let me pop off a little support I didn't trim all the way with my finger, if possible. Okay. I'm going to do this trim a little bit lighter. And then I think, so there's some on this side. I couldn't tell from the art. She doesn't really have any metal, so like her headdress or headpiece, whatever it is, little wizard helmet, I guess, is what the industry term for it. It looked like it was like black metal with some like purple details or something. So I might end up doing that, but I don't know what this other trim is supposed to be. I'm gonna go back over this leg one more time because it was a little bit thin. Before we start trying any highlights or anything like that, let me once again pull the art up and see if I can see that trim. I don't know. Okay, it looks blue. Well, wonderful. Surprise, surprise. Look, it's just built for speed here. All right, so I'm actually gonna mix that down a little bit. We'll do a little bit darker blue. Throw in some more water. All right, so throw that across. And then once we sort of have all of these base tones complete, we'll do a unifying color wash, probably that same color we did for the base coat on the darker colors, but I think that just makes the most sense. Everything else is there, so really we got to figure out what we want to do for that headpiece. I guess I'll do that same color, the cool tone black. I mean, on the artwork it's literally black and then it has like color details built on top, so I might just go a little bit thinner to sort of cheat, and if that's the case, then technically we are doing a little bit of non-metallic metal, but nothing insane. So you can see I'm just sort of throwing it on there. Okay, so while all of that dries, I will begin the skin tone, and I just want to make sure that our skin tone is not too out of whack with the rest of the palette, so it needs to be a little bit cooler. I don't want to go like orange as my base color. That would, even though color theory wise, right, that would look really nice. Okay, so let me grab that. I'm just going to grab our tan. Really crazy name, I know, for a color, but guess what? It's tan. Put some of that on the palette. Then I'm going to grab our orange 4. Orange 4, I know I said I'm not going to start with an orange. I know, just
Don't lie to us.
don't listen. I'm not trying to lie to you. Okay, I'm doing my best. All right, we're on the struggle bus today. Orange 4 is just a really nice sort of warm brown. There is orange pigment in it, but you can see it isn't like neon orange or anything. Okay, and then I'm going to throw some of our warm tone white. I know, again, I'm lying to you. In the base stage here, I just want to make sure it stays a little bit warm. And then as we highlight, I'll go cooler. So I'll take our cool tone white right here and throw it above. Just like that. And on the palette cam, you can tell the difference actually between the two, which is nice. So that one is sort of like our ivory color, and then that one is a little bit cooler with some blue. Now then, what's nice about our pigments, other than actually like the black that we have, there's no black added into any of our darker colors, and then the only time white is added into something is if it is the brightest version. So a few of these zeros have some white mixed in. So I'm going to take our tan, a little bit of the orange 4, mix the two, 50-50 with water. I'm going to go for a base coat on the face. Okay. Even though this has been thinned quite a bit, I still get nice coverage on top of the white that's just showing through from the primer. Probably go back in for a secondary coat as well just to make sure that it is there for me. And then I also am probably going to throw up the spell effect just to make sure it looks good. And I have some cleanup everywhere, really. I'm not concerned with that entirely right now, because I know this is just literal base coats, so everything will still be shaded down a bit, everything will be highlighted. So I'm just sort of paint by numbering. I'm not trying to be a perfectionist. Then I'm going to take our cool tone white and immediately mix it in with the brown. Now you would assume that some of these colors may turn sort of like greenish or something. That's not really the case. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to that too. Because we use pure pigments, it's easier to sort of guess what your color mix will look like. So really they're going to kind of go a coolish ochred gray or something, but that's the base color I'm going to use for our fur. So that way it still hits that cool tone. I'm assuming it would be tinted by the spell effect, so that is the direction I will take it. I'm not going to highlight. There's a little bit of fur underneath the skirt. I think that's probably so dark down there. We don't need to pay a lot of attention to it. I'm a fan of painting what you can see. Meaning, if I am saying that the lighting is coming from one direction, I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing it elsewhere. Okay. So we should be ready to do a wash on top of pretty much everything. And then when we do that, I'll probably throw something onto the base to get some color on there. Okay, so I'm going to take that same cool tone black we've been using for everything, and I'm going to mix it to like a 4-to-1 ratio maybe of water to paint. You can see I'm spreading it like literally an inch across my palette, and it'll whip back together and bead together like a little, like if you've ever seen the movie Flubber, I always call this Flubber consistency. But it springs back into a nice little blob. That way I know that I am very, very close to that like wash consistency that I'm always looking for. And I'm just going to apply this on top of all of the colors that we've used. We've used blues this whole time, cool tone colors. So I know that this will still keep that same saturation and the same cold palette that we want for this entire paint job. Everything will get unified. All of those pigments, you know, the two different blues that I know that we mixed between them, all the different things will be a little bit more cohesive, and then we can begin our highlights to push through. So I'm going to throw this on top of everything, including even where I already have this exact color. On top of the metal, I'm going to go ahead and gently throw it on top of our fur as well. Even though that is still wet, I'm just trying to be brave and believe that it won't bleed into the other color and ruin everything. Throw it on top of the skin. Do what?
So brave.
So brave. We're in go mode, so I'm just trying to get through the most boring part so I can pay attention to you know, the finishing details. I can be way faster and messier at this stage than obviously the end, so that's where I'm focusing my time. But you can see we're just rendering out pretty much all the shadows immediately. And that's it. So our base coat is complete. Amazing. Wow. Cue applause. All those things. The horn. Da, 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 da. And we've made it through. We still have our lighting coming through from that right-hand side. It looks crazy because everything is wet, but we can even see if it tints a little bit from that clear plastic. You can see the difference when it comes through. Still going to look really cool. All right, so I'm going to grab whatever I think makes sense for the base because she is sort of cold. I'm not describing her as a person. I'm not trying to be mean, okay? But just I get a very cold vibe, okay? Makes sense. You're casting cold magic. Look, it's not rocket science, okay? So because of that, and we're using blue, I probably want like some kind of analogous color. Not analogous color. I want a contrast color. So I'm going to use something that is really warm, a brown for the base, probably a reddish brown, something orange. So we have a really nice red-brown in our palette that we can use. And I say that clogged. So no, I can't, because the one thing that we didn't bring in here was our little cloggy tool. I can try and pull this off.
You want me to snag?
Or I will abandon this color and move on. Oh, it's right here. I'm so smart. I left it in here.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. You guys don't really know. Because everyone is out sick, there was a lot of scrambling to be done in terms of getting us ready. There we go. And hey, we did it on time. It was all Spencer. I was just existing. All right, so we got the red brown on the palette. Okay, I'm glad that was here. Where did I put it so I don't forget? Right here. Okay. We're doing great. Okay, so I'm going to throw this on here. You can see our wash is drying. Everything is a lot darker now. And I'm going to get this to that 1-to-1 paint to water. That's pretty much what I use for all base coating. It just ensures everything will be nice and smooth. I'm going to throw this all over the base. It's going to create a lot of contrast. And then, of course, when that's dry, we'll wash it down too. I am utilizing any zenithal that there may be because it's a little bit thin. But I just want the color. I just want the overall tone of that color to come through. Now then, if you were wondering how the spell effect actually attaches, keyed into the front of that rock is actually the snowflake pattern or texture. So it keys into the rock and then rests on her hand. So whenever you get your copy of this mini, that is how you would assemble it. The other mage, it attaches to the tip of the wand, and then the side of his body also has keyed in that same spell effect. So, and by keyed, I mean just an imprint, so it slots in. Made assembly, really nice and easy. So I'm just going to go for a nice base coat here, and then I can black rim the base. We're on all kinds of struggle bus because halfway through too, I'm like, why don't I have my paint handle? Oh man, there's always, you would think we come in and hit a button to go live, but there's a list of pain and suffering that usually happens to get here. All right, so we're getting there, and really I'm just waiting for things to dry. So this is a good opportunity, okay? If you have any questions, drop them in that chat. If you want to just say, hi, Spencer, make sure Spencer knows that we love him and we appreciate him running the cameras, all right? That's Spencer Appreciation Minute.
Thank you.
Cue the music. He said thank you. He's doing a little...
Kobold Press, they appreciate our hard day. They say it happens. We appreciate them.
Yes, we appreciate you. We can tell you more well, actually, depending on who is chatting, because we sent you an email to say what happened. But yeah, there was a lot that happened this morning to get us here, so... but we are just waiting on stuff to dry, and then we're in the final stretches pretty much. Where are we at on time? Is this 30 minutes or so?
I believe 35, 37.
So yeah, right at about 30 minutes, including our little countdown timer. So
oh yeah, -10.
That's good. So we're halfway through the paint job in 30 minutes. You gotta love that. We always work a little bit thinner on top of a zenithal paint job in order to just do the content faster on camera, as well as whenever we paint here in the studio. Any box art that we do, anything like that, and no matter what the size of the mini too. So if you've seen our gigantic 90mm Archon sculpt that we just put up for pre-order, I did the box art on that, and I did the exact same thing. So it doesn't matter really what the approach is. I'm always going to use that same technique. I know when I was teaching Spencer how to start off from that angle too, it was oh, you really do save so much more time because you are starting in the middle, right? So you can immediately go in shadows, start doing highlights, whatever you want to do, right? But it just gets you there a lot faster. So it's always really cool to be able to do that. And then we do have other stuff as well. So on our Patreon, patreon.com/brokenanvil, we do have a full, it's an hour and 15-minute paint job on a Mimic chest. That's getting shipped out to people on the first month as well, out of the 9 minis that you get as a first month subscriber. But we have that entire paint job. It's just on the welcome page. It's free for anybody to watch, but that gives you an idea of those same techniques. And then last week, right? Wasn't it last Friday we did the thinning class? Yes. So we did a consistency class as well, and I showed sort of how it works if you're someone that uses all white primer, if you're someone that uses a slap chop method, right, where you do the dry brush underpainting, how to approach following a tutorial if you use black primer only, sort of where to start from there. and then a zenithal. So like I personally have been doing professional painting now for 7 years. I guess this will be my 8th year, moving into the sort of summertime. But I've been doing it full time for that long. I've worked for a bunch of different companies over the years, did my own thing for a long time, teaching at now thousands of people over the course of my painting experience, and I've been painting for like 26 years, something like that. So for me, it was always getting people to the fun part the fastest, because that usually is what discourages a lot of people. If you only have a little bit of time to enjoy your hobby, I feel like you should be able to utilize that to the extreme. So, but we're looking pretty dry here now, so I'm feeling confident we can start to move forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take our cool tone white and start mixing that in with our cool black. And what we're going to do is we're going to work up a little bit brighter than I want for her highlights on the like dark pieces of cloth that we've been working with so far. And I think I'm going to switch my brush. I've been using like my kind of crappy Old Faithful is how we'll put it this whole time. So I'm going to go to the crispy guy, the new one, because I want a little bit more of a point to it. Not that I don't appreciate all of my brushes, okay? Don't get it wrong, guys. I have like 5 of them here, but we do clean the brushes here as well to try and keep them nice, less frequently probably than we should. That's not a jab at Spencer specifically. He's laughing. Okay, I'm not trying to be that guy, but we try and do our best, okay? And since we do use natural bristle brushes, we gotta take care of them. But you can see this one has a much nicer point. And then over this next process, I'm always gonna be referring to my brush as being wet. I will do the little trick to show you what that means. So whenever I dip my brush into water and I'm mixing, the paint on my palette, this is what I would consider a loaded brush for mixing. So it's really, really saturated. And then what I'm going to do is show you what I mean when I say it's wet. I'm just going to tap it on my finger like so. And boom, all the excess water is gone, and look at that really sharp point that we have left. So I'm going to do it one more time. I know this is really exciting stuff, guys. You're watching water fall off a brush. But so I don't want that. I want that. And so I've been able to do this for so long, right, that I just kind of know how to get this consistency all the time, either wiping my thumb like so, that's why I wear a glove, or just sort of rolling my brush on my palette. But applying highlights, I want to be able to use my paintbrush more like a pen or a pencil. I want a lot of control, and that allows me to do it. So if you have any additional questions on neat tricks you can do with your paintbrush, feel free to send them Spencer's way. But I think that is pretty much the only thing that I may be doing that people might not understand if you haven't heard me talk about it before. So I'll go ahead and start on the back here. I'm going to be looking to essentially sketch my highlights onto the ridges of the cloak, and then I'm going to glaze my way back down. I know that those were a few little descriptors if you're unfamiliar, but what it means is I'm going to go a little bit brighter on this pass with what I want to be the highlight, and then I will come back with that same cool tone black and sort of feather them or obscure them to bring back more of our base color. So I always think it's really good to be able to do this on a brighter color. You also don't have to be very precise. If you're painting something that you want to have a lot of good texture, this is also a good technique to do, because you can do scratches, you can do stuff like this where, you know, it may not be like a pristine piece of cloth or material. It may be, you know, sort of dingy, whatever the case is. You can do that part now in the process. We'll go ahead and just pretend that she doesn't have very expensive robes. I'm sure look, okay, I'm not making judgments, all right? She looks like she's got some money. Wizards usually do, okay? But maybe it's seen a little bit, you know, better times in the past. So we're gonna add a little bit of texture. And you can see I'm really just following those highlights. It looks crazy at this stage, but that is exactly what you want. You want to be able to texture everything out, and then we'll glaze it back down. It's also a good way to, like, a lot of people will struggle and they'll be like, how do you paint black? Well, you paint black by pretty much not painting black, right? So if we want the robe to look like a really, really dark, cool black, we're going to do everything we can to create a subtle difference in those colors, which is what I'm going to be doing here. And I'm just kind of making sure I have all of our shapes in place. That looks like that'll be pretty good for me. And then I'm going to go back up across the top here like so, to help frame that this actual piece of cloth then goes up and over. and down the inside edge of the trim. Similar to that. And then on the front, we really don't have a lot going on this top portion, so I'm just going to kind of hit it with a little bit of color. Push my brush at a 45-degree angle because I don't want to really drag my brush through that. And I think that's good. Let me see what I might want to try and push into. Underneath the arm here, I'm going to clean off my brush that's starting to dry, so I'm just going to have it be wet again. Like I demonstrated, you know what I mean by that. And now I've got it more like a pencil again, and I'm going to start bringing back in the texture and the highlighting. And then same thing here on the arms. Now these arms, if you think about their basic shape, are cylinders. I know, this is very advanced stuff. She got tubes for arms, okay? Most of us do. I won't try and say everybody does because everyone's different, all right? But because of that, I know sort of how highlights work. They usually run down the sides and the middle whenever you got a cylinder. So that is what I'm going to be doing on the glove. I'm highlighting up this section down in the middle of the glove and then the visual edges. I mean, how do you do the edge of something that goes around 360 degrees? Well, you just pick what you can see. So that's what I did. I sort of framed the arm there like that. And then I'm bringing the highlight back across the top. Now, these fingers were really bright to begin with. I'm going to recoat them completely with this paint. I want it to be really, really bright so that way when I reglaze on top, all of the definition of the finger will automatically pop back for us. I'm ignoring completely this side because remember we want our light to be coming mostly from that direction, so I really don't care about stuff over on this side because it doesn't sell the effect as much. And then from the back here, again, if the light is coming from that direction, technically we can't even see the arm, right? But we're going to go ahead and give it a little bit of love so we know that it exists. So I will do a little bit of the interior of the arm into the elbow, just like that, and then hit that top edge because, again, cylinders reflect back towards you on the edge. So that's all I'm doing there. Give a little bit of attention to the leg because all these things are the exact same color based on the artwork. Of course, on Deep Volume, I said that the first time, Deep Magic Volume 1. I think it's because I'm trying to tell myself which volume she's on. So she's in the artwork of Volume 1, and that is sort of what I'm playing around with here. So again, you got noodles for legs, all right? I'm not saying it's weird, okay? Some people have different shaped noodles, but same idea. I'm just trying to frame this shape like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this leg up to the knee. Drop a noodle in the chat if you've got noodles for legs. I know I got some noodle legs out there. Believe in yourself. It's okay. It's all right. Some people have tree trunks. I might be in the tree trunk category. I'm not sure. Maybe some days you're a tree trunk, some days you're a noodle. I don't know. Just how it goes. Why are you laughing, Spencer? This is all really important stuff, okay?
We've got someone in the noodle gang.
We got a noodle gang?
Representing.
All right, I appreciate the noodle. Love a good noodle leg.
You're painting all day, you know? Like,
I'm what?
you're painting all day.
What does that mean?
Well, you don't have time to, like, go do squats.
I don't have time to... You see me do squats.
True.
Every time I walk by your desk, Spencer, I stop, and then I do squats. I do a set of 10. You usually rate me from 0 to 10. Most of the time, it's a 10 out of 10. Some days he hits me with like a 3, but I think he's just trying to keep my ego in check. But, you know, we try and stay fit here at Broken Anvil at all times. So don't quote me on any of that, and don't review the security cam footage, but it's all good. I'm sure we do that. All right, so this hand is a little bit different. This is the highest piece of this cloth material that we've got on the Mini. So I'm going to do the reflection going down the front area where that magic effect is going to be glued, of course. So just like on the other fingers, I want this entire thing to be repainted with our highlight. Of course, if you want more witty banter, make sure if you're hanging out here for the first time today, hit that follow, hit that like, whatever you got, right? Just hang out. We always have fun. We do little streams. Got more streams planned as well in the future on top of all of our Patreon content, YouTube stuff. Got some gameplay stuff coming up soon for Prowl. We'll probably have some Rivenstone videos. Spencer keeps trying to convince me that we're going to do battle reports of Rivenstone.
It's going to be dope.
He's very excited about it. You can tell. You can hear the excitement.
I'm making an army right now.
We are. We both just started painting up some minis for our... I would say our armies. I am not supposed to be... I didn't think I was going to collect a Iron Guard army, but I grabbed some to paint them, so maybe I am. But, oh, I didn't do anything on the back of this leg. Let me hit the bottom of this ankle. Shame on me. All right. Boom. So we have textured and extremely sketch highlighted all of our dark tones here. Obviously her hair is supposed to be black too. I'm probably going to approach that a little bit differently so that it looks slightly different. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of that cool tone black and a little bit of our blue number 4. And I'm going to mix those two on the palette just like that. Add a little bit more water so I can glaze it on there. This is a 2-to-1 ratio. You can see I'm in real flubber mode right now. And I've mixed in more paint because, of course, this splotch that I'm touching on the palette I had used as a wash, so I'm having to shift around. One reason why you may notice, very strangely, I apply all of my paint in a nice little line going from bottom to top, top to bottom. I don't know, it just depends on the mood. And then I always move to the right. It's so that I can readjust my colors. If I ran out of the black, let's say, or like any of the white, I would drop it back on top of where I have it currently. And then that way, if I need to adjust anything and I'm like, oh, I put too much water in this because I'm a big dum-dum, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm heavy-handed, okay, I stub my toe a lot, I don't really know math too good, and you don't even know any of that, but all of everything else, right? Then I can go and adjust the color again. So that's really sort of why I do it that way, and it just looks nice for you on camera. So thank you for removing my ugly mug. Let's continue.
Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to myself. Look, you guys don't know what I have to deal with. The whole time I was saying those things, Spencer was like, keep going, keep adding it. He loved every minute of it. And then he pretends that he's a nice guy. Don't fall for it, okay? Don't fall for it. You all know better, okay? Hashtag Spencer's a bully. Let's get those in the chat. Let's just make him live with that. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking for a nice thin consistency of paint. All this is dry on my thumb. I just want to be able to tint stuff. So you see how I'm applying the paint like that? Look at that. Super thin. It's a thin legend of consistency, okay? And then on the palette, you can see I'm not like dragging my brush all the way through. I'm literally just grabbing the tip of my brush. My brush is already wet the whole time. And voila, I'm going to go back through and glaze on top of this. What I'm looking for is a super even surface tension. I don't want anything to be pooling up. I don't want anything to be really acting like a wash. I just want a really nice thin coat all the way around of this paint. And all of that quick and dirty work I was able to do will then sort of mellow out. It'll look more like a traditional feathered highlight. If you're painting for tabletop quality stuff, if you're a dungeon master and you go, oh my gosh, my pizza took an extra 20 minutes to get delivered and I got people on the way in 30 minutes and you got to finish a mini, this is a good way to try and get it done. Or not. You do what you want. But if I was in that situation, that's probably what I would do. But you can see I'm just going to be glazing this on top of all of that work that we just did previously. I like doing it for dark colors because I think it's just a nice little cheat. And you can see where it's dry now, right? Like we're getting that subtle highlight. And I'll probably apply another highlight very, very gently on top to help round stuff out. We've got that. Going on to this leg over here. If I forget anywhere on the mini where I should apply this, please drastically and dramatically scream into the chat, you forgot. Tell him.
What kind of pizza would you order?
What kind of, are you asking me this or is this a chat question?
That was just me.
I don't want to answer that question. Not for you. No. But if, for everybody else, if you're wondering. I might go for a pepperoni jalapeno.
It's fancy.
You say fancy. I just say I grew up in Texas. So like that's kind of just a normal pepperoni pizza. I'm going to continue to add a little bit more. Awesome. So we've been able to go through and tint down everything. We've built in some of that highlight contrast. And then, guess what? I'm going to take that highlight color that we had previously. I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of this glaze down here on the bottom of the palette. You'll notice that it is even further to the right than the other color I used previously. Again, because I want to be able to go back and edit they mix if I have to. So this is that same glaze consistency with just a little bit more pigment mixed in. Using the cool tone white only. It's really the only color mixed in there. And I'll just go back and sort of re-highlight the edges that I want to show through if I want a little bit more texture. Spencer is dying, coughing off in the distance. I hope he's okay. He will be remembered fondly. My friendship with you has been brief.
I'm okay.
But enjoy. Oh, he's okay? All right, well then you just stop coughing then. We're not losing you. I need you to hang in there. And I'm just sort of reframing this a little bit. Now, I may go a little bit brighter. I don't want to go too bright, too fast. This is something that Spencer has heard me say many times in the past. Whenever we're sort of working on a project or something, I go, I don't know what I want my final highlight color to be because I haven't gone really bright on anything else. I like to start with the darkest color and then kind of hang out, because then if I go really, really bright somewhere else, I know, okay, I should adjust it. Or if everything kind of stays about this level of brightness, then I know I didn't go too far, because then everything will look really weird. So that is where I'm going to leave that. I like the transitions we got. I will probably eventually go back and do the fingers and stuff, but that looks good to me. Okay, so now then, why don't we focus on, let's do like the middle blue on her skirt. That should be pretty simple. So I'm going to grab that color you see, boom, grabbed it on the palette, shifting it over to the right. Get a little bit more. Nice and thin, my brush is wet. Doing the exact same thing I did before. Now then, this may be a little sketchy. And by that, I mean literally, right, like what we did previously. And I am just approaching, let's see where we're at here. So right there is where the cloth separates. And I'm just going to try and bring in the highlight. Now, my painting lights are kind of tilted at a different angle than I'm used to today. So I'm getting some glare as I'm trying to do it. So I'm sort of painting blind. It's fine. These things are all ways to better yourself as a painter, of course. Painting things you can't really see usually works well. But I have faith. I can do it without knowing really what's happening, and it will work out. So we'll
You have to test yourself.
I have to test myself. Okay, well, I am doing that today for sure. Okay, so we've got that in there, and then I didn't really see this color anywhere else, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more white to this. Actually, I should just go. I'm actually just grab a totally different blue. I want this to pop even more. So I'm gonna grab our blue 0, the brightest blue we've got. It's a nice sky blue. I feel like every video we put out, I do this at some point, and then like that's our thumbnail we grab.
You just gotta pop your eyes out a little more.
I have to pop my eyes out a little bit more, so like this, like.
That's it. Oh.
One of those. Okay.
Beautiful.
That's great. Send that to my mom. Say, look, Mom, this is what I do. Okay.
He made it.
I made it. Shout out to my parents. They usually comment on our Facebook posts. I remember one time we shared something, and I'm like, oh, we got a comment like right after we posted it, and it was my mom, and she was like, you look awful. I forget what it was, but shout out to my mom.
It's wholesome.
Very wholesome. Good vibes. We love a good mom Facebook post. All right. So I'm gonna my brush is a little bit whack right now. I'm gonna tell it to calm down. I'm gonna throw a little bit more of a highlight on this. There we go. This is the only spot where this color is really peeking through, so I'm gonna go brighter and then glaze it down. So highlight it through like that. Pull it a little bit closer. Sorry, the angle on the camera is a little weird. I couldn't see because of the light, so I need it to literally be facing me so I know it's in a place that makes sense. That's a place that makes sense. And then I'm just gonna tint it down. Over here, it is in shadow, but I want to highlight it up just a little bit. All right. And as with the other color, I'm gonna grab this, make a little glaze out of it, nice and thin on the palette. And I will use this to adjust. This will sort of act as that in-between color. Now, traditionally, right, you may want to layer up and mix every single transition of color from your darkest blue to your brightest blue, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It works just fine. But I would ask you this, okay? If you're going to mix all those colors and it ends up going from one primary color to another, if you just change the consistency of your paint and then it dries at different opacities or translucencies, right? Same word, same effect. Gives you the same end result, right? So that's what we do. We just go a little bit faster. All right, so I'm tired of blue, okay? We've been working on blue so far. We did all of the dark blue. We did that little bit of lighter blue. So I'm going to take a break, okay? I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to go into the land of the fur, okay? So we're going to do a little fur trim, sort of remixing a base coat here because we had sort of that middle tone. And let's see. This may be bright enough to pop. I'm going to add a little bit more white to it. We did wash it down. I'm going to roll my brush on my thumb like a true champion. We do not lick brushes around here. Our paints do not use synthetic pigment, so you don't want to lick your brush. I also have just never done that. I think it's a little grody. I don't change my paint water often, so I wouldn't trust it. And then I'm just going to go through and highlight up a couple of the individual clumpings of fur. Now then, closer to our light source towards the right, what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to paint all of it solid. Okay, all of this is getting coated with this exact same color. I don't care how many individual little tufts there are of fur, they're all getting the same thing. Then, as I move further away from where I want it to be bright, I'll focus in on a couple of the hairs to help give it definition, and then I'll just let it sort of do its thing towards wherever I want it to be dark. I'll do a couple of those over here. But the reason for that is I know that we're going to highlight this up even further, and so to sell more volume in that shape, or rather, you know, a brighter jump of light, that is what I would want to do. So I'm going to do the same thing on the shoulder here. Completely coat all of them. I don't care about the individual shapes up on the top of the shoulder. And then I'm going to grab some of the individual fur tufts on the way down. Now you could do this. We didn't sculpt these little individual furs, I guess is the term. Hairs? I don't know. I don't think these are individual hairs. I think they're like clumps of fur. But we didn't sculpt them super small, so if you are somebody that wants to go through and do every individual one and do it like fully lit all over with no like weird lighting direction, whatever, it'll work out great for you. So they're definitely approachable with any size brush you're probably going to use. But I'm going to do that same thing on this side, tapering it out on that left shoulder. I need it to be darker, so I'm just sort of picking out some of those hairs. But I want to sell the idea that it's going to be brighter on the right-hand side, and we've already sort of started doing that. On the back, we just got one piece. It didn't really broken up by much, so I'm going to do the same thing. Again, if you have any questions, anything like that, toss them in the chat, and Spencer will try and help you out. Again, if you joined late and you didn't know what we're working on one of the sculpts from Kobold Press's Deep Magic Kickstarter. There's barely any time left. It is in its final hours, or really final days, but final hours.
I like that's more dramatic.
What? Final hours? Yeah, you like final hours more? Okay.
Yeah.
It's in its final hours. Its last breath. I mean, that also. That's very dramatic. It's doing great. It's definitely not on its last breath, but. All right, we're going to go even brighter. And I'm actually going to mix in some of the cool tone white to this highlight too. All right, so we know that our bright light source we want to be literally coming from the direction of the knee. This time around, I am going to coat less with the solid color. So really just this top part on the knee, like so. And then I'm going to start highlighting my way down to help build in that effect. One of the reasons why I stopped on our really, really dark, sort of like blackish blue on all of those objects, right? I said I didn't know how bright to make it. This is probably, plus the skin, going to be the brightest sort of color on the sculpt, so that's why we didn't necessarily know how bright of a highlight to make, because this would also sort of set the overall highlight of the palette. So stopping and kind of doing this now helps us out in the future. I'm going to highlight this top edge here to help break up the idea that this protrudes a little bit further. And then pluck some of those individual clumps of fur while allowing the rest to just hang out. Whatever that wash did, our previous applications of color, they're just going to live like that, help it go quick. Same thing here on this side. We know this needs to be brighter. And down this bottom edge, because that's going to be picking up whatever light there is, like so. So once again, we're selling the idea that it is brighter from the right-hand side. And then over here, if you had done a zenithal application from the top, it would look great too. If you don't do zenithal at all, just doing normal traditional highlighting would look great. If you do slap chop, it'll look great too. Any painting you have fun doing looks great. That's usually my, unless you're Spencer, but that's usually my go-to.
Too real.
Too real, he said.
Yeah, hard on yourself, you know?
Wait, be hard on myself? That's okay.
No, I'm hard on myself.
Oh, you're hard on yourself. Okay, I see. I see the difference. I'm just kidding, of course. Spencer is my sweet cheese, my rotten soldier, okay? Where would I be without him?
Probably somewhere a little better.
Somewhere a little bit better without you? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man. That's probably not true. I don't know if that's true. I don't buy it. Yeah, I'm just highlighting up a little bit more from that same direction. I can glaze down if I want. If we go really, really bright too, I can wash on top to pull back some of that. There's all kinds of tricks you can do whenever you're doing a texture. If you're doing scales, if you're doing fur, wood, anything like that, you can really get away with a lot of in-between work. Okay, so we've got that rocking and rolling. So now I do want to bridge this gap a little bit. I lied. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I want to add a little bit more of a transition right here. Just bring it up a little bit. A little bit more like that. Okay, so we've got that applied. Now then, why don't we go for some of the middle blues. I'm going to pull a tip of, I'm literally not even grabbing my brush. I'm trying to navigate the brush on the camera up here, or on my monitor up here is funny. I had a little dried bit of paint. So I'm going to grab the blue too, because I think I don't have a lot of that on the palette. So I'm going to get this. We'll start highlighting up the center part. Let me look at our artwork one more time. I need to see what makes sense. Okay, so it's actually purple trim. Okay, all right, so let me look at this and see where I would hit that. All right, so we're gonna highlight up a little bit more, and then let's hit like purple, this guy. We'll do this guy right here. Cool, these two purples. All right, and we've got skin. She does have a tattoo on her face. It's probably gonna be hard for me to try and hit and not make a mess of everything currently on camera. And then of course the spell effect. So we've got that. Let's throw in some of this color here. What have you done to me? What have you done to me, tester bottle?
I thought you were talking to me.
You?
Yeah. What have I done to you?
What have you done to me, Spencer?
My bad.
All right. Oh, I punched the palette camera. It's fine. It happens. It's built.
Durable.
It's durable, yeah. Okay. Got that. Really quickly, I'm going to cheat. Don't tell anyone. I'm going to take, I'm going to wash the base because I know that like I probably am not going to want to touch it again or I'll forget to. So I'm going to grab our deep brown. I'm just going to throw it on top. Sort of set ourselves up for success as I drag my hand through the palette and get covered in paint. It's really good. All right, so we got that on the top here. I'm going to get it to that wash consistency. Boom, I'm measuring with my brush. Love it. I'm going to mix a little bit of blue in there because we have cool tones throughout the entire thing. Cool, cool, cool. All right, throw this on top just like that. We will readdress and highlight if time permits. So. All right, cool. That's about as dark as I would want. And I can go back and pull it out if I need to. If you're using a wet brush after you've applied a wash, and this includes if you're using like a pre-mixed wash from a company, anything like that, a wet brush will always allow you to pull it back. So if you've applied too much of it at any given point in time, it's all right. Don't freak out. You'll be okay. All right, taking that a little bit brighter blue. I have to sort of discern the detail here. We did replicate in the sculpt the outfit. And there's a lot of little details, so I'm just trying to pay attention to, and it may be hard to see on camera, so sometimes you do work that doesn't matter. Or sometimes you do work, and then you repaint the entire thing later. I mean, you never really know what you're going to get. But I'm aiming for sort of the in-between spaces here, because there is like a trim to it all. And then this cloth, I'm just going to highlight up a little bit more. Bring some of that tone back, and then we'll just approach the edge colors. This cowl also is still pretty dark. So I'll bring that up a bit. Oh, and then get blue paint on the fur, of course. It's fine. All of these things are intentional. I would never slosh paint where it isn't supposed to go.
Who does that?
I would never do that. I would never do that. There have been many times where I'm working on like display level pieces, and then Spencer will just hear me yell as I've taken paint and just completely accidentally dragged it across it. Or you get paint on the back of your finger and then you touch something. There's all kinds of terrible mistakes that could happen. All right, so I'm going to take our purple 2, and I'm going to use that to start breaking up that trim. Because there is purple. There's blues and purple involved here. Referring the artwork once again. And yeah, it's like a, I mean, it looks like a lilac-ish purple? Electric purple? Something like that. So we will try our best. Aim for success here. So, let's do that. I'm going to add a little bit of our warm and a little bit of this red-brown into this purple. Look at that. That is pretty much exactly the color I was going for. So I'm going to go a little bit darker here on the right so that I have a highlight I can drag from. You can see I try and stay organized. I got a lot of room on that palette still. This is a 5.5 by 5.5 sheet, so I don't use a lot of paint. I mean, technically this is a lot of paint for me. I don't like using as much as I've used today at once, but anytime you're trying to slam through a complete paint job pretty quickly, I kind of overshoot quite a bit. Okay. So now I'm just going to try and bring this out very carefully. And forgive me if it's not like in focus perfectly or in the shot perfectly, because this is very thin work. Can you see it, Spencer?
Oh yeah, we looking good.
Okay.
I think you're being too hard on yourself.
Well, again, it's the angle that you are seeing is not the angle that I have to see to paint. And this one lamp, now I don't want to adjust the lamp at all because Spencer and I play this game every time we try and record anything where once it works, we don't touch it. So, but this one of our lamps is literally in the worst place possible, so I'm getting a ton of glare directly where I'm trying to paint.
Blindfolded painting.
Well, I think that's a great show idea. I think that'd be fun.
I have to do it.
There's all kinds of things that would be cool. You roll a d20 for like random color options, things like that.
Just making your life hard.
Nah.
Is what you're saying.
A lot of this too, I'm just using the side of the tip of my brush, like a 45-degree angle. So I'm not like necessarily painting direct straight lines. I'm just sort of aiming for success here. And assuming I don't sneeze or Mount Rainier doesn't explode, it should pretty much hit it and be cool. Knock on wood, Spencer. You're just, come on, dude. You can't. Oh my gosh.
You got it.
All right. That was a little slow. I don't know if the rules of knocking on wood will accept that one, but we'll hope for you.
I need a refresher.
On the rules?
Yeah, on the rules of knocking on wood.
You gotta do it immediately.
Is it like the 5-second rule?
I don't know. We'll let anyone in the chat, if we have any experts on knocking on wood for good luck, please let us know if there is a time delay sort of factor where you can get in trouble. We need a referee on that one. So
I'd say it's like 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
I know it's long.
Look, I've played enough Elden Ring to know if you don't react in about 1 or 2 seconds, you're in trouble, dog. So I'm not. If that's how the real world works, then come on.
You're right, actually. Now that I think about it, like a statement goes, and then you have to knock on it.
Yeah, you got to do it immediately. All right, so we're hitting our purple trim. Actually, kind of.
We've got someone knock within 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right, Spencer, you killed us all. So.
My bad.
And then in the artwork, we have a nice little snowflake like belt clasp buckle. A piece of fuzz just was illuminated in my purview over here from the super bright camera, and it looked like a huge spider crawled on the floor, and I just like froze for a second. Okay, so let's hit that. If I really can't hit this pattern, yeah, I'm not going to do this the hard way. I'm going to do this the smart way. So I'm just going to paint this a lot brighter. Just right here. And then I'm going to wash it down. And then as that is drying, I'm going to go back and reline it with the purple. Because yeah, in the artwork, this is like glowing, so we may as well make it stand out. Okay, so we got our purple. Go back, reline it. Okay. And then there is trim on this like lower portion as well. Let me refer to the art. Is it? Yeah, it's purple. Okay. All right. It's even thinner. Let's do it. All right, let's go.
We have someone with official lore.
Knocking
on wood.
We have official lore. What do we got?
Yeah. This is knocking on wood came from ancient Celtic lore. They believed that spirits lived in hollow trees.
Spirits
Knocking
live in
on the
hollow
tree
trees. Okay.
was to wake up the spirit and ask for a blessing.
Oh, okay. So you knock on the tree. You ask the spirit for a blessing. Do you have to pay for extra ranch?
I don't.
Or would they give you the extra ranch? That would be my only stipulation. But now I know. That's like
knocking on a desk is kind of morbid then.
Because it's a dead tree. So knocking on any furniture would be bad. Maybe that
outside.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, this changes things. Well, I'm glad I know this official lore. This is like we looked up where Bob's Your Uncle came from a couple weeks ago, and that was very entertaining.
Gotta grow that knowledge.
Gotta level up. I'm always just trying to level up. Always trying to level up. Okay, so that purple is supremely close in tone. So I'm actually going to shift this purple to like sort of a like warlocky pinkish in a highlight, so you can actually see something. But I'm going to wash our little centerpiece here. Nice and thin. Thank you for the knock on wood official lore. I will carry that with me to the grave. Much appreciated. So we've got this going in here into all of the little cracks of our snowflake. So got to get that washed down. Okay, so now I, of course, yet again have to refer to the art. I'm trying to make sure I'm hitting everything I can. I would just go crazy on it, but look, we're trying to get a little bit close to our artwork here. So the cowl also has the same purple lining, so love that. We're going to go back through. Okay. So we highlight that out. I kind of get like Skeletor outfit vibes because of the purple and the blue. I'm not sure why. Maybe my nerd brain is like betraying me and that's not what's happening, but
I can see it.
I mean, clearly she looks just like him, right? Clearly. Okay, so let's get that sort of warlocky, pinkishy purple. So I'm going to use purple 1. It's a really beautiful color. It's really wonderful. So good. There it is on the palette. And then maybe I can use something along the lines of our red 0, which is like a bubblegum pink, to highlight that across. Come on. All right, come on. We haven't shaken these paints and
We've got the tool though.
got the tools. Again, we're using our tester sample bottles. So these are smaller. They're like literally not our final production bottles, so unless we just want you to have fun doing the same thing. I mean, as fun as it is. Put this back. I have a giant paint rack over here to the left with all of the colors. Again, on our Patreon, we recently just went through and showed every single one of these colors, what they look like when they're wet and when they're dry, applied sort of like a contrast style paint. You can check that out, patreon.com/brokenanvil. If you're interested. If not, I'm sorry.
Someone asked if they get a free tool. That's funny.
If you get a free tool?
If they get the paint set.
No, no, because there won't be this issue. These are, yeah, like these are weird sort of like 15 ml bottles that I've never seen anybody use before, and these were just like small so that we could get a bunch of samples made to send out to people. We have joked though about making some kind of poking tool that's like an anvil or something if people want it, but we hopefully won't need it for any reason. I mean, if we're going with like the standard sort of like Vallejo style, Reaper style dropper, no worries. So I'm just gonna take our lighter color here and highlight out sort of the edges of some of our trim. A lot of this is in shadow too. I just want it to be different enough to show up a little bit more. So I'm just hitting sort of the corners. Which again, I really feel like I'm painting blind here with the angle of my lights, but I'll have faith that it works. So I'll probably go down here for that reflection because our light source is coming from the right. Where's my focal length? There it is.
It looks good on this end.
I mean, you say that, and I'm like struggling, so. It's always good to have a friend, you know, even though he's a coworker, and he probably feels like he has to say that just to be nice. Always good to have a friend. I mean, he's laughing. I usually take laughter as an admission of guilt, so I will take that as I will. But let us know in the chat if you think coworkers are friends. I don't know. You tell me. We'll take a public vote. If you're trying to be on Team Spencer, then obviously you would say, yeah, of course he's your friend. Or he's plotting on my downfall. One or the other. We'll figure it out. But a little bit of both, he says. The truth comes out. Well, Clem Fandango. I now know your mission. We love that. And then I'll highlight up a little bit of the cloak as well down here. Or not cloak, but whatever the trim on this little bit of cloth. All right, we can aim for, let's do, I'm gonna shift over here. I'm gonna go for the skin. So I still have that, and I've got that. What do I need? I'm looking for maybe just regular brown. Okay. Throw a standard brown out on the palette. Sweet. Wow, a little delayed switch there.
I know, that was bad.
Somebody was busy typing.
That was bad.
I can go over here and you won't even switch to me because you're so slow. Look at that. He's look. Are you even paying attention? Are you paying attention to me, Spencer? Come on.
Just trying to get interactive with this chat with this really loud keyboard.
What? Look, you're supposed to be telling me what's happening on the chat. You can't have chat secrets, okay?
I had to post a smiley face.
What? No one's smiling
With
in
the
the
nose, with the line. It's like an AOL old school, circa 2000 smiley face. I'm bringing it back.
I'm sorry if he's typing like a boomer in the chat right now, okay? I'm sorry. I thought we were past this. We've had many meetings in the office about his mannerisms, and you know, we're trying to get him up to speed, but
Can't help it, dude. It's the classic smiley.
I'm a fan of the cat smiley with the number 3.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah. I feel like that one goes between language barriers. Like I was playing a game recently on Steam, and I like asked. It's a new game that just came out, and I asked a question of someone. He had like something I hadn't seen before in the game yet, and so I asked, and he stopped moving. So I'm like, okay, he must be answering the question. And then about 2.5 minutes later, he comes back with this very in-depth answer, and then at the very end of it, he goes, "Sorry for slow. I have to use translator app. I'm Korean." And I'm like, oh, wow. So he's like, he took the time to answer my dumb question on something that doesn't matter, right? So from that point forward, I just sent cat smiley emojis or crying faces if things weren't going well, because I was like, hey, I think you'll know what I mean. We don't need a language barrier. So, and it worked great.
Universal language.
Universal language, cat smiley and crying face, and it works great. So, but I will say, in terms of online etiquette, he was doing a lot of work just to say, I got this achievement this way. So, shout out to my friend. Okay, so we've got ears coming in here. I always sort of have the same format when highlighting a face relatively quickly. You do each tear duct, the cheek, and then you go from a line from the tear duct down the side of the nose to the corner of the mouth. And if you follow that little pattern, I don't have any paint on my brush, but so I do each tear duct and then a line down from the corner of the mouth to the chin. You usually will get a realistic highlight. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to get a little bit more of a warmer tone in the highlight for the skin. I kind of want it to pop out a little bit, so. I may need some orange mixed in as well. I have no idea really. Because we're painting something that is so blue all over, right? We're just sort of aiming for success. And my brush dried because I barely had any paint on it. All right, let's try that again. Wet brush, of course, like I always say. Let's have a little bit of dried paint on it. There we go. All right, round 2.
Trying to type slow.
So it's not super
obvious.
loud. What
We're
are
gonna
the?
do keyboard.
Yeah, I know. This keyboard in here is it's like, yo, do you want a gamer mechanical keyboard with LED lights all over it? Because that's what we've got. Okay. People know you're a power gamer when they hear you clicking and clacking.
It's so bright.
Yeah, Spencer sits in the darkness because of how the lighting setup is, and then he just sits over there, clack, 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 clack.
Rainbows all over me from the computer LED.
Yeah. It's like listening to a like operator switch in the 50s, like a typewriter room. Clack, 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 clack. And I'm just highlighting up a little bit more, building more and more contrast into the face. On this side, I'm not worried as much. It's not really visible. At least that's what I'm telling myself. And there we go, highlighting the face up more. Let's see what we're looking like with the spell effect here. Pretty cool.
That's coming
Pretty
along.
cool. Yeah, the spell effect is really nice too. It has this awesome pattern in it. This, of course, is like our little 3D print type. It isn't the actual COcast material. But that is the sculpt that we're using for, oh, hey, let's drop the mini. That's the sculpt we're using for the master of the molds and everything, so should be what you expect to get. All right, so I need to do something with the hair and the crown. I'm going to go back in here on the little belt buckle and try and highlight some of those lines back up real quick. We appreciate you hanging out with us today, though. Again, if you have any questions or anything like that, drop them in the chat. You can check out all the other stuff we have going on our social media pages. Follow us on Instagram. Join our Discord. We're always in the Discord. There's a ton of people posting work in progress paint jobs, all kinds of stuff. We do lots of promo and previews of our other projects that we have going on, from Rivenstone to Prowl to the paints here, stuff, announcements for the Patreon, patreon.com/brokenanvil. Blast Off as well. A lot of people don't know what Blast Off is, though. We've only been teasing Blast Off. Such a tease. I'm going to highlight up a little bit on our base here. Bring some of that color back. And if you do have any questions, of course, you're watching this later and it's not live, the Discord or just commenting in the comment section, we'll get back to you relatively soon. I usually am the person, or Sid in our office checks it off and on after we upload, so it may not be immediate, but we will try and get back to you. And that way, you know, if it took like 3 days, you go, well, Josh was just really slow.
Too cool for school.
Too cool for school. It was my fault. I know. Blame me. I'm the guy. But then if you're upset, I'll just go, well, I'm just the painter, okay? Look, I'm just trying to help, all right? Can't be too mad. So I'm just highlighting up those red rocks, make them pop a little bit more. And I don't know if it's too soon. I feel like it's too soon. I really want to black rim the base just so I can have a nice point of contrast for the rest of everything else, but I may go ahead and do that. It'll kind of push us into that closer to the finish mode. Because we're at like an hour and what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
Yeah, about.
My internal paint clock is usually
That's pretty on.
pretty on point. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab additive black, which is just literally a singular black pigment. Nothing added to it, even though it's called additive black. I mean, you understand. You add it to other colors, okay? You get it. You get it. It makes sense. There's nothing mixed in it. Let's grab that. So, I'm going to black rim the base, and then I can't touch it for a minute, so I'm probably going to take a little drink. A little drink of some sparkling waters.
You deserve it.
I deserve it? I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all.
That was kind. That was nothing but kind.
That was nothing but kind? There was nothing else going on there? Okay. You see, you guys you see what I deal with now. Like, whenever we put out the nice recorded videos, Spencer's nice and calm and quiet. He doesn't really do much in terms of making fun of me. And the second we get live, he's like, yeah, you deserve some water. Okay, dude. I get
That
it.
was kind, dude.
Okay.
Stay hydrated.
Stay high. Okay, now you're concerned for my health? Okay. All right, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. All right, I'm going to put this down. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to grab a little bit of a drink. Oh, where's my drink? Okay, sorry. Okay. This is what we're doing?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, great. I'm just going to hold this here, and you can go, wow, look at the pattern.
You earned that drink.
drink so bad. Oh, that's good. Okay, I'm struggling. All right, we're good. Of course, I say that, and the base isn't dry, but we're getting there.
It's there.
We're getting there.
It's almost there.
What is on? Oh, it's just a reflection. Okay, we're getting there. Now then, there are all kinds of tips and tricks that you can do. So, like, if you got this piece, you could prime this like you prime anything else, and you could just physically paint the effect. I do think it looks nice to have it. This side's the glue inside, I believe. I do think it is nice, though, to have it semi-transparent. So we do plan for our patrons to do an additional little finishing up video showing you how you can paint transparent stuff. It is pretty cool. The short explanation, without actually showing it, because it does require like some different materials, usually what I do is you take some gloss varnish and you apply that to whatever you want to be more transparent. That sort of gives something the paint to grip onto, and then you just figure out what you want that transition to be. So for this effect, I would do most likely gloss varnish all over the whole thing. Then I would apply a blue ink or like a heavy blue wash that would then bring out even more of those details. And then on the edges of the entire thing, I would apply a highlight from the outside. So that way you're able to apply opaque paint to bring more attention to different parts of the effect while still retaining the see-through nature. So that's always kind of what I do. You can also do different things too. After you do that on the back side, you can paint a nice smooth blended highlight on the outside of the edge, feathering it, and then it will show through barely on the other side, and you'll still get that cool ice effect. So there's all kinds of different things you can do. We'll be doing that on our Patreon as a little bonus video as well. Remember, you can check out all that content on the Patreon, as well as all the minis that we ship straight to your door. We produce them here in-house in good old Washington, USA. And the first month we ship you 9 miniatures instead of 3, so that's really exciting. And new content drops every Friday. So we will continue on. I actually do want to shift the face a little bit. I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow. It just isn't, it's not warm enough for me. Maybe, no, orange? Yeah, yes. There wasn't enough warmth in there, so we're gonna shift it a little bit in the highlight. This is our orange 2-1. Sorry, I lied. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Orange 2, silly me. All right, so I'm gonna throw that into our highlight on the skin tone there. I just feel like I was a little bit too close to our fur color, which probably isn't ideal. I mean, which probably doesn't.
A little example though of adjusting on the fly.
Yeah,
right?
Just a little adjustment. I'm only applying it towards the edges where her little crown is too, so I'm not like putting this on the actual face per se. It's just to sort of give it a little bit of a shift, so that way it sits apart, and you can probably tell that now there's a little bit of a shift of color there. Cool. So on this crown, I am going to pretend that it is metallic. So I'm going to blend in some of the cool white into the cool tone black that we have. And I'm going to highlight, starting in the middles of it, the middles, yeah. There we go, we're doing great. We're going to do the middles of things. So I'm going towards the center of the crown, and then the highlighted top edges of the little bits that go over the ears. Go even brighter. Down the center. Now then, another trick whenever you're doing non-metallic metal stuff is you always want to outline the edges of every single object. I'm not super concerned with that right now because I'm going for like just the main highlight pattern, because I know I'm going to have to go back and do it a couple of times, right, if I keep going brighter and brighter. So really I'm just looking for like our volumetric highlight currently, so relatively simple. This is also similar principles to us doing the black cloth, so I'm not really paying attention to how smooth something may be. I'm just trying to get it on the mini. Again, directly down the center. And just grabbing some of these points where I know it's going to be bright. Okay. Then now, since I have that, I'm going to go back with that same black wash, very thin on top of all of it, and then I'll restructure it out to be nice and crispy. In the meantime, I'm waiting on that to dry. We'll go into the hair. Hair should be relatively simple. I'm not paying attention to strand by strand. We're going to do the little trick where we did it on the fur, where I'm just going to highlight it up. Now, instead of using the cool blue tone, I'm going to use our warm tone white. So it's sort of like a ivory off-white. I'm mixing that into our pure black, and that's just going to give us a natural gray. And so wherever I want her hair to show through more, and by hair I just mean like the actual individual strands, I'm going to be highlighting it up in like sections like this. Let's do some of this here. Anywhere where I think that light is going to be reflecting. Just like that, big, big sections. Okay. Looks crazy. Just trust me a little bit. Trying to build in the volumes. Something like that. And probably bridging that right there. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit darker. So I'm working backwards. This is just a deeper gray to help bridge some of that. This is going to allow me, whenever we hit that wash, to help sort of taper out those transitions, and then it should give us nice black hair with a highlight. Similar to the black cloth, it just isn't going to be as cool tone. Alright, so I've done all of our big blocks of highlight that we're looking for. I'm going to look really close here. Okay, I was just making sure that like the piece of metal that I thought I was looking at that whole time actually existed, and it did. Okay, taking that black, I'm actually going to take this brown wash too. Mixing the two. Same thing as before, I'm now applying this directly on top of what we just did. So that way we get a little bit showing through. If I want more to show through, I'll just go back after I wipe off my brush with some water, and it will show more of the color underneath, but I think this will probably be good. And I can just do a couple little highlights on top. But now we've built in more volume to the hair in total. You can see it showing through, and then I'll just build on top of those. Whoop, where am I? Right here. Okay. So now we've done that. We do have the crown to contend with still. Going back in with these lighter bluish black colors that we used, and I'm just going to go for the edges of the object. And I'm just rotating the miniature so that way I can use the side of my brush anytime that I can to help define the area. And I think there's like some red or something in the crown. I can go back and look at the art, of course. Right now I'm just concerned with the shapes. And I will probably go back and double check it too really quick. But following that across onto this side, and there's a lot more detail in here, but we're just going for overall completion here today, about probably 10 minutes. Get you to a healthy, happy medium, and then we'll finish it up again, like I said, on a additional video. And then we'll probably do the fire wizard as well, and maybe we do an OSL, like intentionally with that, I don't know. We could probably bring in an airbrush or something somehow. Blast the mic with the airbrush compressor, nice and loud. Okay, so now I have a much, much brighter edge to help bring out a metallic shine.
saying though is pretty cool. Like in your style, it's all about refinement, right? So you can go to an hour and change and get something to a really nice tabletop standard.
Yeah.
Or keep pushing it.
Yeah, anytime you're working like this where you're going thin or you're working from the middle, you can always go back later and continue to bring in any details that you may need. To keep refining everything. You can see the hair too, we have our volume there. I'm going to go back in and add a little bit more of a highlight. It's still a little darker gray. It should be enough to show up. Maybe I go for kind of like a fake brown here. I'm just pulling from the palette. I have so many different colors mixed, I don't need to pull anything new. There we go. And let's get some individual strands. But we are heading towards the end of our little timer today. We appreciate you all hanging out with us. We don't want to keep you all too long. Again, you can check out the awesome Kickstarter. It is in its final countdown of being able to hop on board. It's doing really, really well. The Deep Magic Volumes 1 and 2 available from Kobold Press. You can just literally Google that. Kobold Press Kickstarter. It's the very first result. Somebody can also probably drop a link in the chat if they want to. But these minis will be available for backers relatively soon, both of them. We'll throw our magic effect up on here so you can see. Looking crazy. Again, we'll probably refine her out even further, and then I do want to show like a little tutorial on how to paint something like this separately. So we'll do some cool effects on that. And then we had the other miniature as well. You can see him here. This is our fire snake dragon magician, wizard, warlock, a sorcerer guy. Is that a good description?
I think it's a great description.
Great description. We got him there as well. But we appreciate you guys hanging out with us so much. Again, if you have any questions or anything like that, we can do some final questions in the chat, or don't worry about it. You can join our Discord, holler at us there, post in the comments, anything like that, and we will be able to get right with you as soon as we can. So I am Josh, again, head studio painter here, hanging out with Spencer, our other studio painter, and we appreciate you. We will probably talk to you very soon. Do we have any other questions, anything like that?
That's it. Thanks, everybody. You guys are awesome.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We will talk to you later.